Greetings. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I'm not sure what happened with the last live stream. It just shut off and it didn't give me a chance to go back in, so we got to start over. Hopefully, you are able to tune in. Hopefully. So, anyways, we're on chapter 5, and yeah, we're just getting started. I think I might have said something that might not needed to have been said, so I guess I'll put the other video on private and we'll just start over. You know how it is. All right. So yeah, welcome back. We're jumping right back into chapter 5. One monkey don't stop, no show. Nothing new under the sun. We keep going as if we had a choice. All right, so let's try this again. Oh boy. Probably all this dream stuff, man. I'm almost wondering if we should stop doing this astral experiment. We're making too many waves in Prakriti. Useless familiar. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate your donation. Thank you for supporting this book study. Okay, no big deal. We'll just start right back over. Unconscious reality. Welcome. Nicole Berkeley. Peace and good evening. Okay, so I'm just going to start over real quick, even though we already did this. The esotericist, chapter 5, negative existence. The esotericist, when endeavoring to formulate his philosophy for communication to others, is confronted by the fact that his knowledge of the higher forms of existence is obtained by a process other than thought. And this process only commences when thought is left behind. Consequently, it is only in that region of consciousness which transcends thought that the highest form of transcendental ideas is known and understood. It is only to those who are able to use this aspect of consciousness that he can communicate his ideas in their original form. This is one of the big reasons why I wanted to do classes and courses and have inner circles and like private groups, because I realized that I was limited with what I could talk about in my YouTube channel because most people just didn't understand what I was talking about. Most people were still at the beginning stage of like, what candle do I use? Are demons evil? How do I meditate? Is the demiurge going to eat me? You know, and if a person's still at that level, it's very difficult to talk about high magic, right? So what I love doing is teaching and educating and sharing what I know, because I know that what I've learned and how I've learned has helped me transform myself, and it's helped many others. So hopefully there's more and more of you guys who are learning how to navigate in the deeper waters so we can have the deeper conversations. I mean, even at the beginning stages, you know, it's frustrating when you don't have anybody to talk to about your experiences. Well, just imagine how frustrating it is when you're at a higher level and you really don't have anybody to talk to, right? But just what he said here. And it is only to those who are able to use this aspect of consciousness that he can communicate his ideas in their original form. When we reach these high states of consciousness and we get these downloads, we cannot share them with anybody simply because other people don't have the foundation to even understand what we're talking about. Have you ever tried to share your dreams with somebody? What's the best they can say, right? At worst, they'll just be like, "Oh, that was cool," or at best, they'll give you some fear stuff. Uh-oh, you know what that means, girl. When he wants to communicate these ideas to those who have had no experience of this mode of consciousness, he must either crystallize them into form or fail to convey any adequate impression. Mystics have used every imaginable simile in the endeavor to convey their impressions. Philosophers have lost themselves in a maze of words, and all to no purpose so far as the unilluminated soul is concerned. Right? Don't cast your pearls to swine. Because not only do the philosophers write these big ass books full of big words trying to convey this deep message, just because the book is thick and has big words doesn't necessarily mean the message is conveyed. We've seen through the books that we've been reading from Swami Niranjanananda Saraswati, these books are short. They're like 60 to 80 pages. Yet he gets the point across of some very high level concepts. It doesn't take a million words. It doesn't take a 600-page book. Swami has proven that you can do it in 60 pages, right? But that's a sign of a master, somebody who knows exactly what they're talking about and how to convey it to someone who doesn't know anything about what they're talking about, which is another big reason why I chose those books. Davian Strong, peace. Higher understanding. Welcome, welcome. Alicia M., good to see you. Eustace Familiar asks, do you give consolations? I give consultations every now and then. Wyatt B says, I'm pleased to inform everyone Oblivious Debacle is in the house tonight. All right. Alligator, peace, brother, peace. Alligator says, greetings, everyone. That's why religions had to come up with these imaginary walking on water stories so the masses can understand. Exactly. Exactly. That's the power of metaphor. Metaphor is how you communicate a message to anyone at any level, including children, right? A child will understand a message through metaphor. An educated man or a simple man will understand the message through metaphor. And I've learned it doesn't matter what your education level is. What matters is your ability to be flexible. To be flexible. Rigid thinking means that you're easy to be broken. That means you suffer a lot. You ever look on Facebook and just watch these people argue about the president, arguing about Trump and Biden and Republican and Democrat? Look at these rigid thought forms. These people cannot be happy. They can't know what happiness is. The misery just comes out in their arguments, ready to tear someone apart simply because they have a different opinion. They literally have nothing better to do than to fight about something that doesn't even involve them. That's called rigid thinking. And that type of rigid, hard, crystallized thinking, it makes you easy to snap. And as you see, these people are easy to snap, right? Get into fights with family, like break up close, long-held relationships because somebody voted for someone else. That's called insanity, right? They would literally fight. They would physically fight, right? A grandmother who raised you all your life, but she gets caught up in that trance so deeply, ready to stop talking to you because you didn't vote for Biden or something. That's what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter how smart or how unsmart you are. What matters is your ability to be flexible. Remember, we're talking about something that's beyond thought, so it has nothing to do with your intelligence. It has everything to do with your heart. Not your physical heart, but the essence behind who and what you are. The essence behind who and what you are expresses itself in many ways. That is your unconscious mind. Nothing to do with your intellect. I love how everybody in the chat like knows each other. Like, this is really cool. I've never seen this before in any other chat. Unconscious Reality says, I came to know about you from Brother Yusef's channel. When I saw what you're teaching, I was like, wow, I've been divinely guided. Welcome. Sly says, reminds me of some people who ask me about astrology, like, what's happening? What's it mean? I've stopped answering them by simply telling them, look it up, which they never do. They never really cared, right? That's a good answer. Tell them to look it up. And at worst, they'll just, give up. At best, you will have helped create another student. Justin Wallace says, that's why I got off of Facebook, LOL. Same. I find more of those types of personalities on Facebook, so I don't really go there much. Mariah Magdalene says, my mom is like that. Yeah. But that's what our society creates, because it's easy to sell to those kind of people. They're extremely passionate about what they believe in, to the point of irrationality. So it's easy to sell them things based on, to get the money for the campaign, and, invest in the vaccine, or whatever they're trying to sell. They don't think twice about it, right? Do you guys remember seeing all those advertisements where they're trying to get people to get the vaccine in exchange for a free donut, or in exchange for 5 pounds of crawfish, in exchange for like a free hamburger, for free pizza? Like, a permanent solution to a temporary problem. That is a sign of immaturity. To take a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Got to think about what you're doing. Don't be moved like that by your emotions. Scott Russell says, get your Krispy Kreme today with your free vax. And it's like, and then I've seen like really low amounts of money, like get $5 or even get $100. You know what I'm saying? Like, listen, if you're going to be experimenting on me, my fee is a lot higher than a donut. How about give me that donut chain so I can make money off of those donut sales, right? Give me some of that stock y'all holding on to. Give me some of the stock in the vaccine itself. How about that? Hollow Vegeta says, just goes to show what they think of folks. Exactly. And they're not wrong, because people did it. I saw pictures on Facebook once again of people so proud, holding up that free donut and their little sticker and the Band-Aid, like little kids. Now, please listen to what I'm saying. I didn't say anything was right or wrong, good or bad. I'm simply illustrating what literally happened in front of all of our eyes. I didn't say anything was good or bad. I said, look at how the exchange happened. You were tempted to get a shot to get a free donut. That's all it took to get into your body, right? I'd hate to see how you're like, or how easy you are when you go out to mingle. You know what I'm saying? Well, shit, if all I need to get inside of you is a donut, well, let's make a deal, right? Wyatt B says, doesn't the vaccine activate all your chakras? I don't know nothing about it, and I don't care. Ask someone who got the vaccine. They might be able to help you understand that. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, here's the catch. When the hot light is on, you can get a free donut anyway. They know. Shaylet, peace. We got you and Gator in here at the same time. Andy says they eat the whole of that hole, right? Whew. All right, let's continue, because we're still on page 1, and we don't need to be talking about that subject, because somebody might really get butt hurt. And I'm not here to hurt butts. I'm here to talk about Qabalah. We Grow Natural. Welcome. Book study veteran in the house. Junkyard Jedi 77. Peace, bro. All right, guys. Got to stimulate the reptile brain. Breaking Bad. All right, where was I? So yeah, we're talking about accessing higher consciousness, and that higher consciousness is within a region of consciousness that is behind thought. It's beyond thought, you feel me? Way past it. So in order to communicate what was received in that high level, it's impossible to just communicate it directly. So there's either two things are going to happen. Either you're going to crystallize it into a form, like a symbol or a sigil or a metaphor, or you're going to fail to transmit the message, right? We've seen that when you try to educate people about spiritual stuff and they're not into this at all. Either they don't get it at all, or you have to make it really plain and simple, connected to something that they already understand, right? Guys, I'm trying to focus. All right, so mystics have used every imaginable simile in the endeavor to convey their impressions. Philosophers have lost themselves in a maze of words, and all to no purpose so far as the unilluminated soul is concerned. So look, the sleeping, they don't even care, right? They don't even get it, right? You can sit here and go for hours talking about this deep information, but to the unilluminated soul, it was for no purpose. It didn't matter. Who cares? They want to see the exciting stuff, right? Show me some explosions. Show me some drama. I don't want to hear about this higher consciousness. The Kabbalist, however, uses another method. They do not try to explain to the mind that which the mind is not equipped to deal with. They give it a series of symbols to meditate upon, and these enable it to build the stairway of realization, step by step, and to climb where it cannot fly. The mind can no more grasp transcendent philosophy than the eye can see music. So we talked about that. The eye can't see music. It's made for the ear. Now, what can the eye see? The eye can see the sheet music on paper, but that's just a drawing. That's dots and lines on a piece of paper. That's not music. Or if you're a producer like myself, you see the waveform bouncing up and down on the program. That's not the music. That's just a digital representation of a waveform. So what I was saying before is when we're dealing with the tree of life, or when we're dealing with the etheric body, we use the realm of Yasad or the realm of Chitta, right, or the Pranamaya Kosha, as in the same way that we look at sheet music to play the song, in the same way that you see the waveform bouncing on that program. That's how we use Chitta. That's how we use memory. That's how we use the etheric realm and the astral realm to be able to navigate the higher realms, because we can't experience them directly. You can't see what's happening in Tifereth, Gibra, Chesed, Chachma, Bina, Doth. You can't see that, right? You can't experience it. So we use Yasad as like a middleman. The same way that you look at sheet music to play a song, we use Yasad to be able to interpret this. All right, so all my musicians here, y'all know what I'm talking about. Nero put an emoji of a zombie, and Sakura says Nero on point, creating mindless beings. I wouldn't even say creating mindless beings. I would say that they're already there, and they're just following their programming. You don't create a mindless being. They're already mindless. Which is another reason why not to worry about this stuff, because if you're not a mindless being, you're not going to be made into a mindless being. You come like that. They were already what they were before they did anything to prove it in the real world. You feel me? Shaylet says people are going to get it because they're programmed by the F word, and that F word is fear. Like, oh my God, what is this? Or what is that? Right, like I said, they're already that way. They're already that way. Scott Russell says there was a noticeable change to music once it started getting written down. Do what you will with that info. Stuffed Dog, peace, peace. Stuffed Dog says it's like you can't tell anyone how a rose smells. Right. And even if you write about it and describe it, it's still not the smell of a rose. Society Eject says Yasad, the mediator. Right, right. Nuru says, LOL, my bad. I might have to watch my Ritties. Same, same. Hollow Vegeta says, Bobby said, a mind gotta be cultivated. Exactly. Consistency is key here. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, in my dream, the angel was singing and the visible words were coming out of its mouth. I was like, yeah, I'm dreaming. Let me control this. I start saying what I wanted to happen in my dream and boom. Yeah. Number 2, the tree of life, as cannot too often be emphasized, is not so much a system as a method. Those who formulated it realized the important truth that in order to obtain clarity of vision, one must circumscribe the field of vision, right? Circumscribe, right? That means really to chart out, right? Like imagine circumscribing the globe. That's like traveling around the world. You got to map out the whole territory. So, point 1, the tree of life is not a system, it's a method. It's a method, right? And she says here that those who formulated this method, they realized the important truth that in order to obtain clarity of vision, right? Here's the truth. In order for you to see clearly, in order for you to see all this clearly, you've got to travel across the whole field, right? One must circumscribe the field of vision. Most philosophers founded their system upon the absolute, but this is a shifting foundation. For the human mind can neither define nor grasp the absolute. So check that out. Most philosophers founded their systems upon the absolute. But even though that sounds really good, the absolute is not something that we can define or grasp. So how can you build your foundation upon something that you can't even grasp? So it's easier for things to shift and change and to seem paradoxical. Some others try to use a negation for their foundation, declaring that the absolute is and must ever be unknowable. The Kabbalist do neither of these things. They content themselves with saying that the absolute is unknown to the state of consciousness which is normal to human beings. So you see that? We understand that what we call the absolute is unknown to this state of consciousness that we're familiar with, right? And that shouldn't upset you or make you feel insecure or uncomfortable, right? If anything, that should be exciting because that shows that there is still so much to explore for the rest of eternity. You can literally never get bored with this. You can never get bored with this. I mean, that's exciting to me. As long as I can remember, one of my fantasies after death would be to just explore the universe and learn all of its secrets. Like, that's something I would think about as a kid. I'd imagine myself just floating around the galaxy learning stuff forever. That was really before I got into all this stuff. That's just something that I came with, I suppose. Let's continue. Number 3. For the purposes of their system, therefore, they draw a veil. They draw a veil at a certain point in manifestation. Not because there's nothing there, but because the mind as such must stop there. How many times have I pointed to the map on the cover of this book where you have Doth, right? Where you have that barrier, that veil, right? Now look at that. That limit, that barrier right there, it's simply showing a space of consciousness that mind and ego and self cannot pass. Mind, ego, self cannot go past that level. It simply can't. And it's not because a demiurge is going to eat you or stop you from crossing. What's up in these upper realms is so pure that nothing impure can float up there. Right? What is made of a substance of pureness, purity, whatever you want to call it, that's all that travels up there. So everything down here has a spark of that purity in it, right? But it's also mixed and mingled with other stuff. So all that other stuff has to be left behind where it is, and only that spark of purity can cross that barrier. Thought is not included in that spark of purity. Ego is not included. Personality is not included. So no matter if you call yourself left-hand path and you're going to self-deify or whatever you're saying, or if you're right-hand path or middle path, doesn't matter what path. At this level right here, you're not going to bring no kind of individual ego across, because thought simply doesn't come across here. So it doesn't matter what path you think you're on. Doesn't matter. In a way, that's just vanity. Jedi, Sith, or Gray, there's only one force. There is only one force. So you don't hear me talking about no path. Oh, I'm left-hand path, right-hand path. Because that stuff, it doesn't matter, at least not for what I'm into. For other people it does, and everyone has their path. Like when I say something like that, this is not a judgment on a specific person. I don't care about what people do. What I'm saying from what I've learned is that there are some things that you can focus on that are efficient, and there are some things that you can focus on that are inefficient. Focusing on the demiurge and the next bad guy, that is inefficient. It doesn't help you to grow or to understand the world in a better way. Alora, greetings. Greetings in the real world this time. Stuffed Dog says, I just want the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I don't care what package it comes in. Facts. Nuru says, at the risk of confusion, the absolute cannot be grasped, because literally only the deep state of completely letting go of all grasping, clinging, samadhi, releases you back into the absolute state. And I agree with that. Because going up those higher planes, it isn't so much like you said, it isn't about reaching upward and grabbing it. It's actually letting go. Because we're talking about source material here. Source, it's inherent within everything that manifests. Nothing that is manifested whatsoever at all is separate from source or doesn't have source in it. Everything has source. From the people to the rocks to the airplanes to the dogs and the cats and the beetles and the spiders and the lizards. Everything's got source within it. It's these forms that we cling to that keeps us in manifestation. But I said all that because I was showing you the veil of Doth. For the purposes of their system, therefore, they draw a veil at a certain point in manifestation, not because there's nothing there, but because the mind, as such, must stop here. When the human mind has been brought to its highest stage of development, and consciousness can detach itself therefrom, and, as it were, stand upon its own shoulders, we may be able to penetrate the veils of negative existence, as they are called. But for all practical purposes, we can understand the nature of the cosmos if we are content to accept the veils as philosophical conventions and realize that they correspond to human limitations. I highlighted that. They correspond to human limitations, not to cosmic conditions. The same can be said about Tatwashuti, page 45. Look, somebody's got to have this cut out and taped to their wall by now. Look at this. We're talking about the macrocosm, and we're talking about the three traits of this highest self: the will, the force of activity, and the knowing. Then we've got Maya, which is the enveloping limitations, the envelopes. This is representing the human limitation, right? God is never limited. Shiva Shakti, that's always there. Brahman is always. No beginning, no end. But what we're looking at here with these veils and these limits, these are all human limitations. Just like Doth and the triple veils, those are human limitations. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, not the lizards, no, LOL. Yeah, I said that for you. Unconscious Reality says, since I've started reading the Qabalah, it resonates so deeply. Good, good. Society Eject says, I have it on my wall. Perfect. I might need to blow it up and get it on mine, honestly. Mariah Magdalene says, Nuru, you're really helping me to better understand. Thank you. Sakura Key Nexus says, couldn't find the image on Google. Could anyone point me to it? You might as well just go buy Taught with Shooty off of Amazon. As many times as I've put that book in front of this phone camera, I think that is a sign of how important it actually is. If you watch these live reads, I'm pretty sure I pull it out every single live read. Go ahead and buy the book, man. Nero says you already are the absolute, which has just accidentally, karmically, gathered the burdens of old clothing, layered over top of the absolute. The more you allow yourself to believe in the fiction. Sakura Kinexus says, how do you spell it? Just look up at Cosmic Chlorophyll's post. She says, wow, society, I might start reading Tatwa Shooty tomorrow. Tatwa Shooty. That's a must-have if you're listening to my channel. Okay, let's keep going, because we've got quite a bit to cover here. So again, when the human mind has been brought to the highest state of its when the human mind has been brought to its highest stage of development and consciousness can detach itself therefrom and, as it were, stand upon its own shoulders, we may be able to penetrate the negative veils, the veils of negative existence, as they are called. Human limitations. So let me read that again, because she's telling you what has to be done here. When the human mind has been brought to its highest stage of development, when the mind itself has been brought to the highest stage of development, because remember, you got to leave the thoughts behind. When the mind has been brought to its highest stage of development and consciousness can detach itself from the mind, look at how she says consciousness is different from mind. Mind is not the same thing as consciousness. That alone should tell you it's not the mind is all, universe is mental. The all is mind, the universe is mental. But she says here, when consciousness can detach itself from mind and stand upon its own shoulders, right? When consciousness can raise itself beyond mind, we may be able to penetrate the veils of negative existence. So that's why shadow work is such a big deal. That's why non-attachment is such a big deal, because you haven't learned how to exist without your mind. You rely on your mind to tell you what reality is, and that's limitation. The mind is composed of everything you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, and feel, and all your memories, personal memories. You use those things to define yourself, but if you can really learn that those things are not you, then you'll naturally start to expand beyond those things. And hopefully you can practice this expansion to the point that you're able to leave those things behind at will. And once you're able to do that, now you can start talking about this higher information. It takes a little bit of practice, but I mean, all the methods are here. There's so many different methods to do. It's not like one way. There's tons of ways. I don't have the book on me now, but it's the big, thick orange book written by Satyananda about yoga. It's got Shiva on the front. It has so many different exercises in it. Not to mention Dharana Darshan. Dharana Darshan has a ton of exercises. Not to mention Tatwa Shooty, right? And then there's other ones written in English by, like, say, for example, Initiation into Hermetics, Basic Magic, Libranol and Psychonaut. There's so many different books that can show you different practices that can help you expand past thought. Beautiful stuff. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, I need to run a Darshan now. Old boy gave me the PDF, but the phone and my eyes don't play well together. Yeah, man, I gave up on the PDF collection game. Because we'll sit here and collect PDFs till the cows come home and literally never open them up. At least with the physical copy, you can open it up at some point, if not right away. Speaking of which, I got 2 books that just came in. Maybe if this live doesn't go too long, I'll do an unboxing of new books that I became interested in. Alora says, so if we unattach, we then start existing on another level altogether. If it could even be called existing at that point. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, what's the name of the big orange book? I don't remember. I just know it's the big, thick orange Bihar book. Mariah Magdalene says, I'm trying to learn the art of detachment. Attachments are really hindering me in life so far. Yes, ma'am. Justin Wallace says, I just bought that top with shitty. Smart man. Davian Strong says, my cows came home. I still don't open PDFs. Yeah, I can't do it no more. Tony Martinez, Mr. Think Outside the Box. Peace, brother. Tony Martinez says, James 4:14. Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow, for what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time and then vanisheth away. Cosmic Chlorophyll, Stuffed Dog just gave you the title. The big orange book is Yoga and Kriya. Okay, all right, let's get back to it. So, like I said here, consciousness is distinguished from mind. Consciousness is not mind, it's not thoughts. There are thoughts. Thoughts belong to the mind. But see, here's the thing. Mind, it's not a thing. Mind is a field. Mind is a matrix. And the way that mind knows itself is by experiencing the 5 senses. So without 5 senses to experience, the mind lays dormant. This happens in deep sleep, doesn't it? But the way that your mind knows that it exists is by talking to people, is by smelling things, is by watching things, is by listening to things, is by doing things, feeling things, touching things. That's how your mind knows that it exists, which is why it's so important to sit down and meditate. You practice stillness and you don't excite any of the 5 senses. Now the mind has to be still. It has no choice but to realize maybe there's more to me. Maybe I'm not all there is, right? They call it the blind idiot god, the demiurge, Yaldabaoth, Azathoth. When the mind is still and there's no impulses disturbing it, the waves become calm. And then you begin to see that there's actually something beyond mind, right? But if you never sit your ass down to meditate, you won't come to see that. Meditation is crucial. It's crucial because this is the easiest and quickest opportunity, not quickest, but easiest and most thorough opportunity to come to know higher consciousness. Now, like I said before, I've got this shadow work mastery system that I'm offering, but there's been a little bit of a delay because, man, I've been using these techniques on myself, and I came up last night with the perfect meditation. I told myself I wasn't going to talk about it yet, but I'm just going to say a little bit. It's a basic meditation that trains you to remain conscious in the unconscious state of sleep. And it's so simple, it's mind-blowing. But I've been using this to help explore the depths of my unconscious mind, right? And that's important because while you're asleep, the conscious mind isn't blocking things. Even while you dream, the conscious mind can be blocking things because it chooses what you pick out of your visions. But once you cross over into unconscious sleep, like I said, when the mind is not being disturbed, now you're really able to see higher consciousness. There are meditations, right? And there's one that I've been practicing, and I finally put 2 and 2 together. There's a specific breathing exercise that if you do it, it'll train yourself to breathe like that during sleep. Man. But that's going to be in the course. So I apologize if you're waiting on it, but trust me, I don't put garbage out. Like, I want this to be the best it can be, so bear with me for just a moment. Society Eject says, yep, you have to sit your ass down. It is mandatory. Hecate says, unconscious can communicate with you. it is happening 100% of the time, 24/7. It's never not communicating with you, right? Because think about it. Even when you sleep, like I just said, when you hit that deep level of sleep, the conscious mind shuts off, but the unconscious is still running. So the unconscious mind literally is more active, and it's active 24/7. That's why it's important to listen to affirmations or audio books or binaural beats while you sleep, or better yet, listen yourself to some mantras while you sleep, because the unconscious mind is still picking up all that information. Davian Strong says, literally been working on staying conscious through the unconscious. Yes, sir. That's an advanced practice, and that's where you really dig out some of this higher level information. Shango says, peace and power to everyone. And Travis Magus, peace, Shango. Good to see you. All right, let's keep this thing going. So, the conscious mind has to be able to stand on its own beyond thought. Excuse me, the unconscious, right? Consciousness has to be separated from thought, separating the wheat from the chaff, the real from the unreal. Shaylette says, wait, Travis, don't tell my secret now. Hey, we're all learning and growing together. If we don't lift each other up, then we're holding each other down. But for all practical purposes, we can understand the nature of the cosmos if we are content to accept the veils as philosophical conventions and realize that they correspond to human limitations. Once again, Doth, the negative veils of existence, the veil of Parakith, all those veils, those only apply to human mind, right? Not to cosmic conditions. The origin of things is inexplicable in terms of our philosophy, right? The origin is inexplicable. However far we push our inquiries back into the origins in the world of manifestation, we find a preceding existence. So what she's saying is, no matter how deep you go in your meditation or in your study, when you find the beginning, guess what? You're going to find that there was something before that. And when you find the beginning of that, you're going to find that there's something before that. The journey does not end. It never ends. It is only when we are content to draw the veil of negative existence across the path which leads back to the beginnings that we get a background against which a first cause becomes visible. So keep in mind also, the three negative veils don't just exist above Kether. The three negative veils exist in some way in each of the Sephiroth, right? And this cause is not a rootless origin, but a first appearance on the plane of manifestation. Thus far and no further can the mind go back. But we must always remember that different minds go back different distances, right? So look, it is good to have community here because we keep the atmosphere, we keep, you get this feeling of familiarity to keep you motivated in studying. But understand, we got a whole collection of different minds. Some more intelligent, some more emotional, right? Some more physical, and some deeply spiritual, right? Some people who've been studying this longer than me. Some people who just found out about this yesterday, right? Homie in the chat said this is his second live stream. So we got a collection of different things. And what she just said here was different minds go back different distances. We're here to support each other and help each other for sure. This is a group, but at the same time, it's a solo journey because different minds access different depths of the unconscious. But even as she said on page 17, verse 15, we are all individual lagoons and lakes, and lagoons are supposed to be still, right? But there's an underground channel that connects that lagoon to the sea. And with the phases of the moon, the tides rise and fall, that lagoon rises and falls. And it looks bizarre because lagoons aren't supposed to do that. But because of that secret connection to the all these lagoons are moving at the same rate, right? A rising tide lifts all ships. So get your ship in the water. You dig. Van Spinfield says, so Trav, is telepathy a form of the unconscious overlapping the conscious in the physical realm? I think you answered your own question just then. Higher understanding says, feel like a family. Yes. Al Dickey, peace, peace. Shango says, always a current at the subtle levels, undercurrent, right? Zaire Anu, welcome, brother. Different minds go back different distances. And that, for some, the veil is drawn in one place, and for others in another. So look, for some of y'all, the veil is at a different place. For some of us, the veil is at another place, right? You might be stuck somewhere based on your current level. I might be way past that. And then there's some of you in this very chat who are actually past me and don't even realize it. But guess what? That's not what matters. What matters is, are you efficiently able to connect with your unconscious mind? It's becoming more and more clear to me that's what this whole thing is about. Being able to efficiently have a communication with the unconscious mind. Oh man, I saw something last night. Let me see if I can pull it up real quick. I don't want to make you wait too long. But it was about mastery and the sign of a master, an actual master teacher. And let's see. And about the different levels of learning. Like, this goes really deep. Whew, the levels of learning. Let me see if I can share this. I might. If you want to, maybe write down on your paper, write down Bateson's levels of learning. That's pretty interesting because it's actually not what you would think. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this thing. I think I'm close to it, but one of the things was, it is thus important to have strategies and methods to continually develop the relationship between your conscious and the unconscious processes, right? Another one is saying right here, these appear to be key qualities in creating the bridge between our conscious and our unconscious, right? Using peripheral vision as opposed to foveal vision, focusing on external sounds instead of internal sounds, and a relaxed physiology, right? No excess or emotional physical tension. And this is something that I'm including in my course also. Basically, it is what do you call it? Dhyana, right? Sensory deprivation, where it's an exercise where you put yourself into a trance and you focus exclusively on the external world, sight, what you see, what you hear, what you feel, taste, touch, smell, and you completely silence any inner dialogue whatsoever. And you stay in that state for a long time, and you start to realize the difference between being in that state and being in your head all the time, right? The external world and the internal world. And this is one of the key exercises that can help you build that connection. The unconscious does not think in literal or material terms, but processes in terms of relationship, patterns, and patterns of relationships. That is crucial. You got to memorize that right there if this is what you care about. If you care about building a connection with the unconscious mind, understand this right here. The unconscious does not think in literal or material terms, but processes in terms of relationship, patterns, and patterns of relationships. Like I was saying before, I just read this last night, but what I've been saying was, this is about the relationships. See, the logical mind thinks in a linear style. This plus this leads to that, leads to that. But the unconscious mind, it's always communicating to us in our environment, through other people, in our emotions and experiences and everything. It doesn't speak in literal terms, but in relationships, patterns and patterns of relationships. This is why the Qabalah is so important. This is why it's so important, because we're learning a system of relationships and patterns and how to put every pattern on one cipher key. You feel me? On one cipher key. But this is what he says right. Yeah, here it is. I actually didn't delete it. I saw it on accident. right here. People demonstrating mastery or excellence in the world have a high quality relationship between conscious and unconscious. I'm going to highlight that right now. And here's something you got to know, y'all. Study is important, not so you can talk about it to other people, but as you fill your head up with information, it doesn't leave your system. The more that you study, eventually, all the information is going to coalesce into an understanding, right? So at first you're just adding random information, but it's like a garden. You're planting seeds. And over time, when you come back, you're going to notice that those seeds are sprouting into fruit. So please gather information that is important to you. Eventually, the understanding will sprout unconsciously. Let me read that again because I saw that last night and it was powerful. People demonstrating mastery or excellence in the world have a high quality relationship between conscious and unconscious. They continually find ways to enhance and develop the quality of the relationship between that small piece, the small piece that we call consciousness, and the vastness of the unconscious. Consciousness feeds back into the larger unit, the unconscious, and affects the quality of the relationship. People who experience mastery also understand that this relationship is an ongoing process, an evolution which is continually enhanced as time goes by. Dig it. Please dig it. So like this is stuff that I picked up from studying Qabalah. Then I go and I see this in a psychology book. So either they're studying Qabalah too, or this is some kind of universal understanding about the unconscious mind. And if you're digging this information, if you like this information, please hit that like button. If we can get those likes to equal the attendees in the live, then I will show the book cover to that book. I really don't want to, but if y'all can boost those likes up, we'll do it. We Grow Natural says, this is great information. Yes, yes. Justin Wall says, man, I'm so glad I found this live stream, right? Hollow Vegeta says, crazy. Something told me if I just keep absorbing the info, something will manifest from it. Right. 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 All right. Well, I won't forget. If you do hit the likes and it gets up to the current level of viewers, then I'll share it. But in the meantime, let's continue with where we're going. Understand the importance of the unconscious mind, please. And when you think about a master, you think about somebody like Michael Jordan, Tony Robbins. I'm sure you've got people in different fields that you enjoy who are like top tier performers. These are people who have a very tight, close relationship with their unconscious mind. You dig? These are people who they don't have self-doubt and negative talk and low self-esteem, and they're not confused. They know what's happening. And even if they don't know, they know they'll figure it out. See, there's a difference. They're more than just solution makers. They're achievers even before they even set out to conquer the obstacle. Stuff Dog says Prince, right? Michael Jackson, right? The list goes on, but the common thing is these are people who are operating at top efficiency because they know how to access something very deep and subtle within their being. All right, let's continue. Different minds go back different distances. That's a great line. The ignorant goes no further than the concept of God as an old man with a long white beard who sat on a golden throne and gave orders for creation. You hear that? The ignorant goes no further than the concept of God as an old man with a long white beard who sat on a golden throne and gave orders for creation. Do you all remember when you thought that's what God was? I'm not going to front. I remember first hearing about God and seeing the paintings and thinking that God was some old white man with a long white beard up in the clouds wearing a robe, right? commanding all these angels to do this, that, and the third. We're literally trained to believe that, y'all. But that's an ignorant view. The scientist will go back a little further before he is compelled to draw a veil called the ether. And the philosopher will go back yet further before he draws a veil called the absolute. So check this out. She's talking about the different veils and the different minds. The ignorant person can only go back as far as God making the Garden of Eden, saying, let there be light. The scientist can go back a little further than that, and he can actually see the ether, right? In the beginning was, you know what I'm saying, was the word, and God created the heaven and the earth was out without form, right? The philosopher goes even further than that, and he draws a veil called the absolute. And that's us talking about Brahman, Shiva Shakti, right? But the initiate, here we go. That's you, right? Hopefully. The initiate will go back furthest of all because he has learned to do his thinking in symbols. And symbols are to the mind what tools are to the hand, an extended application of its powers. Let me read that again. The initiate will go back furthest of all because he has learned to do his thinking in symbols. Have you learned to do your thinking in symbols yet? Have you learned to do your thinking in symbols yet? Or do you do all your thinking in words? The initiate will go back furthest of all because he's learned to do his thinking in symbols. And symbols are to the mind what tools are to the hand. Symbols are to the mind what tools are to the hand, an extended application of its powers. As I'm putting together this bookshelf rather slowly, there's a lot of things that I could not do without a hammer and a screwdriver, right? I'd have a hard time banging those nails into this bookshelf without a tool to make the process easier, efficient, and with as little stress as possible. And it's done cleanly and quickly. This is what symbols can do when it comes to our understanding of the absolute. Oh, it's magic, you know. Magic. Stuff Dog says, I wanted to say me, but I didn't want to yank my own chain on Trav's live stream. Nah, man, go ahead. But I'm pretty awesome. I just had to say, yes, sir. I agree. Charlotte says, yes, I thought that was God. I grew up in Catholic school, so I know, right? Wyatt B says, I smashed that like button so hard, I don't know if anyone else can use it now. Man. Imagine thinking that there's a man in the sky with a beard and a robe punishing you and giving you rewards. Imagine that. And then imagine it's this man who doesn't look like you. It looks like your boss or your president or somebody that you don't really have a personal relationship with, an alien, something foreign. What does that metaphor do to you? They give you an image of God, and if you look like him, okay, it might be better for you because you can say, oh, he looks like my grandfather or something like that. But if he doesn't look like you at all, how could you sit here and believe that your God is this foreign thing that's so different? Like, that really does something to your understanding of the world. That has a very deep subliminal impact. To see Caesar Borgia as Christ, right? Blue eyes, blonde hair, blue eyes, brown hair. Not saying that in itself is a bad thing, but I'm just saying for a small segment of people, that works out pretty well. But for a large segment of other people, that's low-key insane. Someone please call 911. And sitting on a throne, like Shango said, and sitting on a throne. That throne is in your heart, your mind, your reality. But Matthew Watson says that made it easier to listen to the human pastor as a symbol of authority. Don't get me wrong now. Black Jesus with the Jerry curl was even worse. Even worse. The black Jesus with the Jerry curl is even worse, right? Or you seen the Jesus with the dreads? Even worse. It's better to leave it abstract. It really is. Alora says, I remembered a dude at a slam poetry event got a standing ovation for suggesting that he believed that God was a female. Oh, that is so cringe. The cringe part is like I can just tell everyone standing up, yeah, yeah, he's right. Oh my goodness. Oh boy. Tony Martinez says, God symbolized my pops, only there to give money and spank that ass. Society EJ says, LOL, as I was a child, I believed Santa Claus and God was the same person. Davian Straw says, Donald Trump. Oh, hell no. Matthew Watson says, like Master Chief, at least before 343. Yeah, that's one thing I really enjoyed. They didn't show Master Chief's face, like, at least as long as I played the game. And I appreciated that. You didn't know what race he was, what he looked like. You just had this idea, and it was just open to the imagination. Donald Trump. All right, let's continue. We're an hour in, and we're only on the 4th verse. Number 4, the Kabbalist takes for his starting point Kether, the crown, the first Sephirah, which he symbolizes by the figure 1, unity, and by the point within a circle. From this, he traces backward the 3 veils of negative existence. This is quite a different matter from starting at the absolute and trying to work forwards into evolution. It may not yield immediately accurate and complete knowledge of the origin of all things, but it enables the mind to make a start. And unless we can make a start, we have no hope of a finish. You hear that? Unless we can make a start, we have no hope of a finish. So we start at Kether, regardless if we're going to try to go up or go back down. Because Kether is also what we've come to know of as Prakriti, but at the very fine level of Buddhi. Remember the diagram that I showed? All this is Prakriti. But just like the earth has an atmosphere, the outer layer atmosphere of Prakriti is Buddhi. It's very fine. And it is such because it is in close proximity to Purusha. Buddhi is that layer of Prakriti that is the closest proximity to Purusha. So in a way, if we wanted to travel into the negative veils of existence, we'd be traveling away from Buddhi back into Purusha. Or if we wanted to travel into manifestation, we'd be going away from Purusha into Malkuth, into Prithvi, into Asaya, where it gets more dense, more concrete, more solid. Solid as a rock. Solid. Jesus with a Jerry curl. I legit seen a painting in a church. I think it was a church I grew up in. They had black Jesus with an actual juicy, drippy Jerry curl. I didn't think it was ridiculous back then, but man, I wish I could see it today. I would take a picture of that. Prakriti. If y'all ain't seen a picture of black Jesus with a Jerry curl, you ain't living. Does anybody here not know what a Jerry curl is? Maybe some of y'all are too young to get that. Somebody had the nerve to make God in his own image. Rick James Jesus. Number 5. The Kabbalist then starts where he can at the first point that is within the reach of finite consciousness. Kether is equated with the most transcendent form of God that we can conceive, whose name is Eheye, translated in the authorized version of the Bible as I am, or more explicitly, the self-existing one. pure being. Solid, solid. Solid as a rock. Karakriti. Unconscious reality said I had a Jerry curl. Oh, damn. At one point, all the adults in my family had a Jerry curl. At one point, my grandpa, my grandma, all the aunts, everybody had that curly, drippy fro. I remember that little spray bottle of no drip. No drip. They created this new formula that didn't drip all over the place. That was revolutionary. Society Eject says, LOL, ramen noodles head ass. Ramen noodles. Jeez Louise. Number 6. But these words are words and nothing more unless they convey an impression to the mind. And in themselves, they cannot do that. They must be related to other ideas before they have any significance. I'm going to have to read that again because that's highly highlightable. But these words are words, right? Let's go back just a little bit. We're talking about Kether, right? And Kether is equated with the most transcendent form of God that we can conceive. Your highest conception of God. That's what's happening at Kether, right? Even past white Jesus with a Jerry curl, even past all that, your highest conception of what you truly believe God is, that's happening at Kether, whose name is Eheye, and that's translated as I am, or the self-existing one, or the pure being. But check that out. These words are just words and nothing more, unless they convey an impression to the mind, right? The words I am that I am, the self-existing, the pure, the most high, all that stuff, those are just words and they don't mean anything unless they have an impression that they leave on the mind. And in themselves, they cannot do that. They must be related to other ideas before they have any significance. Think about that for just a second. Shaylette says, processed problems make processed people, just like a Jerry curl perm unawareness. Exactly. Raina Leona, peace, peace. Raina Leona says, to me, source or God is nothing more than thought forms turned into substance that became water and went through the 3 stages of water, gas, liquid, and solidity. And what if there was something above that, right? What causes that process to take place? What facilitates that process to take place? What if there was something beyond even that? Because remember, Dion Fortune was talking about the different veils that we stop at. We stop at a certain veil of our understanding of God based on our current level of understanding. Deep stuff. Now, this also goes for like magic words in an occult book. Like if you're reading the Necronomicon, and has anybody here not seen the spells in the Necronomicon? Right. Because here in verse 6, she literally just said, all these are just words unless they convey an impression or something to the mind. Right? They're all just words unless you can get something out of them. Well, I'm looking here, say for example in the Necronomicon, right? Look at these spells. Let the camera focus a bit. Come on, camera. I know you see me. Right, we got Iya Sakath, Sastu, Uku, Utuku, Zul, Zisu, Kingu, Abzul, Zaba, Zatur, Hubar. Look at this one. Baksa, Baksa. What the hell is that? Tamantan Ias. Like, what does that even mean? Right? It doesn't bring any type of impression to the mind. Like, you might have to make something up. I don't know. But when you're looking at this, what is it? What does it do for you, right? That's the same thing as like looking at any of these books and you see some kind of magic spell, even if it's in English. O thou, thee, thine, I shall invoke thee, and you know, the principalities of the divine mighty give credence to the principalities of the poverty of the imperished. Like, what does it mean? It doesn't leave an impression on the mind, so you might as well leave it alone. Okay, that's a good point, Alora. Alligator says, and I used to say all that crazy shit, sounded like Michael Ford. Right. You know, and that's how we all started, because that's all we knew. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, if I do this ritual, I've got to talk like I'm in old English, right? But yeah, man, it's if it doesn't leave an impression in the mind, then it really isn't of much use to you, right? We only begin to understand Kether when we study Hakma, the second Sephiroth, its emanation. It is only when we see the full unfoldment of the 10 Sephiroth that we are ready to approach Kether, and then we approach it with the data that gives us the key to its nature. In working with the tree, it is wisest to keep on going over it rather than to concentrate upon a single point until it's mastered, right? How many people got stuck on one sphere? Keep flowing, because it's a system of relationships. For one thing explains another, and it is out of the perception of the relationships between the different symbols that enlightenment arises. Again, we say, the tree is a method of using the mind, not a system of knowledge. The tree is a method of using the mind, not a system of knowledge. 7. But at the moment, we are not engaged in the study of the emanations, but of origins, so far as the human mind may hope to penetrate them. And paradoxical as it may appear, we shall penetrate further when we draw the veils across them than when we try to pierce the darkness. We will, then, sum up the position of Kether in one sentence, a sentence that can have but little significance for the student approaching the subject for the first time. If this is your first time, bear with us. It'll be gentle, but don't try to force yourself to make it make sense. Remember what we said about the unconscious mind. Learning is a process of triggering education. Education means to pull out from within, not to cram stuff in your head, but to use external symbols to pull out from within. So check out what she says here. We will then sum up the position of Kether in one sentence, a sentence that can have but little significance for the student approaching the subject for the first time, but which must be borne in mind, for its significance will begin to dawn presently. In so doing, we are adhering to the ancient esoteric tradition of giving the student a symbol to incubate till it hatches in his mind, rather than explicit instruction on which would convey nothing to him. Listen to that, what she just said. Like I said before, if you're a first timer, if you're brand new to this, if you don't understand, if you're confused, whatever, that doesn't matter. Still get this information, because just like she said, that the symbols that you're receiving now are like an egg that are being incubated in your unconscious mind till it's ready to hatch. So, I didn't read chapter 1, so I can't watch the live stream. That's not an excuse. If you want this information, come get it. Don't let anything stop you. If you have the book, I don't understand this, so I can't read the book yet. Don't ever say that. Crack that thing open and skim through it. Do your best, because you're planting seeds. You're incubating an egg that will hatch when the time is right. I don't want to hear no excuses. If you want this, get it. Period. Right? Like she said, this is what we do. We adhere to an ancient esoteric tradition by giving the student a symbol to incubate till it hatches in his mind, Why didn't I highlight that? Rather than explicit instruction, which would convey nothing to him. See, this is actually better than giving you a plan. Oh, well, you go out and do this, and you spin around in a circle, and you eat half a Snickers bar, and you stand on one foot, and you chant Travis Major 6 times, and then it'll happen. No. Get the work, and be easy on yourself. The seed sentence, then, which we cast into the subconscious mind of the reader, is this. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest. Mathers says, the limitless ocean of negative light does not proceed from a center, for it is centerless, but it concentrates a center, which is the number 1 of the manifested Sephiroth, Kether, the crown, the first Sephiroth. Justin Wallace says, I listened to the audiobook last night while I slept, and it really helped let some of the info sink in. And today when I read, I could understand it a lot better. I did the same thing. I made a playlist, and I'm keeping this playlist up. So if you guys want to listen to the audiobook while you sleep, then it's there. Easy to find on my channel. Just click on playlists. The High Priestess, welcome. The High Priestess says, I haven't finished the first 2 lives, but something told me to just listen along and go back later so it'll make more sense. Yeah, exactly. If you're here, stay here. Don't leave saying, oh, I gotta watch the first one. No. Get in where you fit in. The rest of it will make sense in time. Andy Smith says, from the world of possibilities to the world of probabilities. Yes. Number 8. These words in themselves contain contradictions and are unthinkable. Negative light is simply a way of saying that the thing described, though having certain qualities in common with light, is nevertheless not light as we know it. So look, there are a lot of us here who know what a Kether is and know what a Malkuth is, and we even understand the concept that every Sephiroth has a tree in it. And of course, the sphere above is a Malkuth to the sphere above it, right? But don't sit here and say, oh, I already know that, because that closes you off from receiving even more wisdom. Pretend like you don't understand this. Pretend like you heard this for the first time. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest. Let that sentence continue to bring you wisdom. Because when you sit here and read this and say, oh, I already know that, you close off the wisdom that might have come from this. So I invite you, veterans who've been here already, hear this sentence for the first time. Kether is the Malkuth of the unmanifest. Now we're talking about the negative existence and the negative light. We're still dealing with light, but it's not the same kind of light that we know. It has things in common with light, but this is a different kind of light. In my live lecture in Atlanta, I did touch on this same subject. This darkness is actually a type of light that we cannot comprehend with the conscious mind. Mariah Magdalene says, hey Travis, did you put the tarot cards together and compare it with the tree? If so, what did you come up with? Yes, I'm glad you asked. Did you do that? Did you put the cards together? What I came up with was the 4 elements. And then Timon in the comments added to what I found. Now what she saw was the 3 gunas. She saw, I think she said that Tamas was the star, Rajas was the sun card, and Sattva was the temperance card. And then what I saw was the universe card was the four elements. So she saw a trident. The grip, the handle of the trident was the four elements, which is the place where the manifestation takes place, and then the influences were the three gunas above it. The sun card, the temperance card, and the star card. And in my deck, all the people in these cards were naked. But yeah, that was the big thing that I came up with, the four elements and the three gunas. Maybe the Yasad plane and the Malkuth plane is where the three gunas have its heaviest influence. What'd you come up with? Inner light activation. Mariah Magdalene says, I put them together, but I didn't get anything from it, unfortunately. I think I needed more information. That's fine, because remember again, what we just saw, the unconscious mind speaks in symbols and patterns and relationships. So as long as you're working with these symbols and you're observing them with the intent to find the relationship, with the intention to find the pattern, then you're planting the correct seeds that will blossom over time. As long as you did it, you're doing the right thing and the best thing. So please keep it moving. Keep going. All right, so we're talking about the negative light. This tells us very little about that which it is intended to describe. We are told not to make the mistake of thinking of it as light, but we are not told how to think of it as it really is. And for the very good reason that the mind is not equipped with any images under which to represent it, and must therefore let it alone till growth takes place. Nevertheless, although these words do not tell us all that we would like to know, they convey certain images to the imagination. These sink into the subconscious mind and thence are evoked when ideas enter the conscious mind, which are related to them. Again, they convey certain images to the imagination. These images conveyed to the imagination sink into the subconscious mind and thence are evoked when ideas enter the conscious mind, which are related to them. She's telling you the same thing. Thus, knowledge grows from more to more when the Kabbalistic method is given its practical application as the yoga of the West. No matter what level you are on, meditate on these symbols. Don't stress out because your conscious mind can't come up with a conscious answer. Trust your unconscious and you will figure it out. I love it. Number 9. The Kabbalists recognize 4 planes of manifestation and 3 planes of unmanifestation, or negative existence. And that kind of reminds me of what we just talked about. The world card being the 4 elements, and those upper 3 channels being the 3 planes of unmanifestation, maybe. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, yesterday, in the previous chapter, she mentioned an exercise of thinking about Yasad, the moon. And she said a good exercise would be to actually meditate on the tarot cards that are around Yasad, the universe, the sun, temperance, and the star. And that's where I said, Timon pointed out that it was like a trident with the handle here and these 3 points here. And we know that the trident represents the 3 gunas. And from her estimation, she said Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas, which could make sense. And of course, the handle being the universe represented as the 4 elements. 4 elements, 3 channels. So the Kabbalists recognize 4 planes of manifestation and 3 planes of unmanifestation, or negative existence. The first of these is called ayin, negativity. The second, Ein Sof, the limitless. The third, or Ein Sof, the limitless light. It is out of this last that Kether is concentrated. These 3 terms are called the 3 veils of negative existence, depending back from Kether. In other words, they are the algebraic symbols that enable us to think of that which transcends thought, and which at the same time hide that which they represent. They are masks of transcendent realities. The 3 negative veils is a symbol that is extremely abstract, and it's for good reason. As desperately as we want a concrete symbol for these things, it's actually better that there's not, because it allows us to utilize a part of our mind that is beyond the thinking. We Grow Natural says, I couldn't wait for you to break this book down, and I happen to have it. It's so amazing. Happy to help, really. Shango says, as a master of self, you can create the new patterns in life by changing the things you experience or expand your experiences, because experiences create patterns of remembrances. Yes. Nuru says, I love the car battery analogy. In the dark inner still of the inside of the battery is full charge. Plasma physicists actually call it unilluminated light. Tesla called it either Veda ether. Vedas call it Brahman. Yeah, Micah says a dollar bill is the bookmark, right? That's where the money is, man. Andy Smith says triangle and square. Yeah, 3 and 4. 3 and 4. That's another recurring pattern on the tree as well. Living in the zone. Peace, peace. Nuru says only stillness releases all thoughts, words to experience the absolute. If we think of the states of negative existence in terms of anything that we know, we shall err. For whatever else they may be, they cannot be that, being unmanifest. So look, when you're thinking about the negative veils of existence or anything that is extremely transcendental, whatever image comes to your head is not it. Just by default that we're talking about the unmanifest. So if you come up with an image, if you come up with something that you can see, that's not it, right? The expression veils, therefore, teaches us to use these ideas as counters of no value in themselves, but useful to us in our calculations. This is the true use of all symbols. They veil that which they represent until we can reduce them to terms we can comprehend. This is the true use of all symbols. They veil that which they represent until we can reduce them to terms we can comprehend. Nevertheless, they enable us to use in our calculations ideas which would otherwise be unthinkable. And as the essence of the tree lies in the fact that it causes its symbols to elucidate one another by means of their relative positions, these veils serve as the scaffolding of thought, enabling us to take our bearings in regions as yet uncharted. So in other words, dealing with the unmanifest and the unconscious mind, there's nothing to hold on to. There's no guideposts, there's no roadmaps, no street signs. There's literally nothing. So because our human minds operate in the way that they do, it helps us to have some type of symbol. Remember what she said 2 chapters ago about the algebraic formula of X, Y, and Z. And she mentioned how X could represent the unknown. We don't know anything about X. and Z represents something we do know. Y would represent half of X. So this would be the symbol. And what we would actually do is work with the symbol in comparison to what we do know to gain more information about what we don't know. That's saying that the unmanifest and the unknown, it is not the symbol that we use to represent it, but the symbol allows us to use correspondence to something we do know to get to something we don't know. Let me know if that makes sense. Uh-oh, those likes are getting pretty close. I was kind of hoping you guys wouldn't do it. So, such veils or non-concrete symbols are, however, of no value to us unless one side of the veil abuts upon known country, right? Just like I said, the X, the Y, and the Z. The Z represents something that we know. The veils represent half of what we know, half of what we don't know. And then the X represents what we don't know at all. We use the three together. The veils, in fact, while they conceal that which they represent, enable us to see clearly that to which they form a background. This is their function, and the only reason they are referred to. It is only by reason of our infirmities that we need to have these unresolvable symbols presented to us, and the mind disciplined in esoteric philosophy soon learns to work within these limitations and accept, as a painted veil, the symbols of that which lies beyond its kin. This way lies the unfoldment of wisdom, for the mind grows with what it feeds upon. Highlighted. For the mind grows with what it feeds upon, and one of these days, when we have climbed to Kether, we may hope to stretch out our hands and rend the veil and look through into the limitless light. The esotericist does not limit himself by declaring the unknown to be the unknowable, for he is above all things an evolutionist, and knows that that which we cannot compass today, we may achieve in the tomorrow of cosmic time. He knows too that evolutionary time is an individual matter upon the inner planes and is measured, not regulated, by the revolution of the earth upon its axis. Evolutionary time is an individual matter upon the inner planes. Individual meaning you personally. Evolutionary time is an individual matter. It deals more with your karma than it does with the clock, right? It's measured, not regulated, by the revolution of the earth upon its axis. So it's not that it has to take 50 years, 20 years, 30 years. The external clock allows you to measure the time, but evolution is not regulated by time. Stuffed Dog 69 says, come on, people, make Trav uncomfortable. Get them likes up so he has to show the book. All right, well, the likes are there. For a brief, limited time only. Pay attention, because I'm just going to show it once. Don't type it in the chat. Just look at it. Ready? Going in 3, 2, 1. All right, I kept my word. Thanks for the likes. Okay, so number 10, these three veils, Ain, negativity, Ein Sof, the limitless, and or Ein Sof, the limitless light, Though we cannot hope to understand them, nevertheless suggest to our minds certain ideas. Negativity implies being or existence of a nature which we cannot comprehend. We cannot conceive of a thing which is, and yet is not. Therefore, we must conceive of a form of being of which we have never had any conscious experience, a form of being which, according to our concepts of existence, does not exist, and yet, if one may express it so, exists according to its own idea of existence. In the words of a very wise man, there are more things in heaven and earth than are dreamt of in your philosophy. Oh yeah. You got to think, behind a lot of great individuals in modern times, they have coaches, right? I don't remember his name, but like, say, for example, Michael Jordan's coach. He was considered somebody really great. And there's other coaches in other fields who are usually above and beyond everybody else. Well, it's little known that sometimes these people have coaches. And oftentimes, the coaches that they go to are NLP practitioners, which just goes to show how powerful this science of neurolinguistic programming really is. Wyatt B says he just showed us his most rare Pokemon card. Oh, you wish, my friend. There are authors and titles that I refuse to speak of on this live stream. 11. But although we say that negative existence is outside the range of our realization, it does not mean that we're outside the range of its influence. All right? Don't get it twisted. Just because you can't conceive or perceive this highest level of consciousness doesn't mean that you're outside of the range of its influence. That's like I said, the unconscious mind runs the show. The conscious mind doesn't do much of anything except be aware of the situation. The conscious mind is like a passenger on a train, not the driver, a passenger on a train wearing a seatbelt. The unconscious mind is the train moving at 400 miles per hour. The passenger can't do much about the train at all except sit and wait. So like she said here, while we can't necessarily understand the train and the mechanics of it, we're still being moved by it at such a rate that we really can't do anything to stop it. Wyatt B says, okay, now how many like buttons do we got to smash for the secret hidden books? Now we're all curious. Yeah, like I said, I'm not even going to mention it. Stuffed Dog 69 says, Mike Tyson's coach, Cuz D'Amato, he talked about him like he's God. Yeah. I mean, somebody that can really change your life and help you to achieve your greatest dreams. I think that you'd look at somebody in a similar way. I have a coach that I hold in the high esteem, from a distance at least. I don't get crazy with it, but I do appreciate that this individual taught me how to do something that I struggled to learn how to do on my own. And for that, I'm forever grateful. Because of the specific teachings from this specific coach, I'm able to be free when before I felt imprisoned. So yeah, whatever this particular coach says, I'm all about it. And no shame either. Aww. C. Joy says, Nuru, You are truly do bring light and illumination to this fam, a true reflection of your name. Nuru means light in Kiswahili. Thank you for being. Thank you to Trav and the entire fam. Much love. How nice. Okay, but although we say that negative influence is outside the range of our realization, it does not mean that we're outside the range of its influence. If this were so, we could dismiss it as non-existent so far as we are concerned, and our interest in it would be at an end. On the contrary, although we have not direct access to its being, all that we know as existing has its roots in this negative existence, so that although we cannot know it directly, we have experience of it at one remove. That is to say, although we cannot know its nature, we know its effects. Very key. In the same way as we are ignorant of the nature of electricity, yet are able to turn it to good account in our lives, and from our experience of its effects, we are able to come to certain conclusions concerning some, at least, of the qualities it must possess. Those who have penetrated furthest into the unseen have given us symbolic descriptions by means of which we may turn our minds in the direction of the absolute, even if we cannot reach it. See, most of us don't know anything about electricity, but everything we use is powered by electricity. So you don't have to understand it to use it, right? The same thing with the unconscious mind. But she says here, those who have penetrated furthest into the unseen have given us symbolic descriptions. And by means of these symbolic descriptions, we're able to turn our minds in the direction of the absolute, even if we cannot reach it. One example of those symbolic representations would be this diagram. Whether or not we can actually reach that level of Shiva Shakti, at least we have something to kind of turn our awareness to, which is way better than nothing. Matter of fact, it's one of the first steps to actually get there. And speaking of the coaches, Stuff Dog says, my coaches made me, I ain't gonna lie. I think sometimes I was better off not having a dad because I got a piece of all my coaches as male influences on my life. I think for me and my frequency, that was better than just having a pops. That's the way karma situated it. All of our circumstances are perfect. They have spoken of negative existence as light, or Ein Sof, the limitless light. They have spoken of the first manifest as sound. In the beginning was the word. I remember once hearing a man who was an adept, if ever there was one, say, if you want to know what God is, I can tell you in one word. God is pressure. So think about what she said there also. In one phrase, they say that Ein Sof R is limitless light. Right, and they also speak of the first manifest as sound. This is what we see in the Vedic or the Samkhya philosophy. The first manifests as sound, which of course we know as Om. And in the Bible it says in the beginning was the word. So we're talking about vibration here. And what does vibration do? Vibration, the up and the down that you see in a diagram, that's actually the compression of space and the expansion of space. So vibration is compression and expansion. We're dealing with pressure here. Pressure causes compression and anti-pressure causes expansion. So that process happening up, down, what the quote says here is, if you want to know what God is, I can tell you in one word, God is pressure. Pressure, we're talking about sound, also the movement of these vibrations. And immediately, an image leapt to my mind and a realization followed. I could conceive the one flowing of life through every channel of existence. I felt that a genuine realization of the nature of God had been conveyed to me, And yet, if one came to analyze the words, there was nothing in them. Nevertheless, they had the power to convey an image, a symbol to the mind, and the mind, working upon it in the realm of intuition, beyond the sphere of reason, achieved a realization, even if that realization could only be reduced to the sphere of concrete thought as an image. So she's telling you right there, even with her process, she received a download, she received an awareness of a concept, and knowing that her conscious mind couldn't quite comprehend it, because like she said, the words didn't really mean anything, but she had this flash, this image of reality, and realizing that this flash didn't come from her conscious rational mind, she didn't think her way through it, it was received. And that's what Qabalah means. It means the reception, the receiving, the cupped hands receiving. So she received this from the intuitive plane, not from the logical plane. And in order for her to hold on to it and comprehend it, she was able to create a symbol. 12. We must clearly realize that in these highly abstract regions, the mind can use nothing but symbols. But these symbols have the power to convey realizations to minds that know how to use them. These symbols are the seeds of thought whence understanding arises, even if we are not able to expand the symbol itself into a concrete realization. I think something pretty obvious that I haven't mentioned at all is, didn't we read a book called Mantra and Yantra? Didn't we read a book called Mantra and Yantra? Isn't mantra vibration that influences the elements? Like verbatim, that's what Niranjanananda said. What is a mantra? Vibration that influences the elements. Right? And what is the yantra? The yantra is the image perceived of that mantra. And didn't we talk about how these yogis and these aspirants refined themselves, refined their minds and their awareness so that they could raise their consciousness up to this level that she's been talking about here? They were able to raise their consciousness up to the level beyond thought to perceive the vibrations that already existed there. And they could barely bring it down in words. So what they do, they drew yantras and they came back with mantras, right? Whether they were Bij mantras like Om, Ham, Yam, Ram, Lam, Vam, Om, right? Whether it was a Bij mantra like that or a full-on mantra, Om Namah Shivaya, right? The Mahamrityunjaya mantra, the Kali mantra, Durga mantra, 13 names of Durga, the Gayatri mantra, right? They were able to pull down the whole Vedic text based on the vibrations that were perceived at these levels. And for the simple person, for the average person, for the basic person, for the busy person, we don't have the time to refine our minds to that point, but we can use the tools that they received. We can use the Bij mantras and the yantras. Clean, right? That's what I was sleeping to last night. Clean, 6 hours. We can still use those mantras to access what they accessed. They literally did the work for us. Or at least gave us a ladder to be able to access some of this stuff. And in the same way, these mantras and yantras, they don't have an effect on the conscious mind or the rational mind. They have an effect on the unconscious mind. Because you don't just sit there and listen to the mantras and nothing really happens that you can observe, not right away. But you begin to feel its effect over time if you're paying attention. Om Shreem Brazi. Sadi Eject says yantra is the door and mantra is the key. Living in the Zone says it has a cumulative effect. Absolutely. Nuru said yes, God is pressure. Yep. Electromagnetically, it's very accurate. Charge is pressure. Voltage, our life or body, is the expression, the pressing outward, loss or dissipation of God's charge, discharge. Gleam. 12. We must clearly realize that in these highly abstract regions, the mind can use nothing but symbols. The mind can use nothing but symbols. Man, if I read this 6 more times, I'm probably going to end up highlighting everything. But these symbols have the power to convey realizations to minds that know how to use them. These symbols are the seeds of thought whence understanding arises. Even if we are not able to expand the symbol itself into a concrete realization, the seeds are still being planted, is what she's saying. And maybe this could give a clue as to what the Swami was talking about when he was talking about how mantras and yantras can help to influence your karma, help to harmonize karma, right? It makes a little bit more sense now because we're working on the unconscious plane. And if karma affects us unconsciously, being the motivator and influencer of our desires, the motivator and influencers of our behavior and our habits, right? Because we're literally, automatons and robots to our unconscious mind. The unconscious mind has the programming for everything that we do. We think that we're making decisions and choices, but really the unconscious mind is what causes us to do that. You say, oh, I do what I want. Well, where does the want come from? The want comes from the unconscious mind, and it comes from the many karmas that you have stored up there, the many influences and desires and habits, right? But what the Swami talked about was how mantras and yantras and meditation can help to obliterate samskaras, can help to obliterate and harmonize some of this karma, which means that the influences that push you and force you to behave the way that you behave, those influences become neutralized over time, which means that you slowly start to regain your concept of free will. Living in the Zone says, Nuru be dropping it. Are you even human? LOL. Nuru typing from beyond. Andy says, yantra is the sheet music. Mantra is the song. Nuru says, honestly, much of what I'm spitting here is being activated here by sitting hours with y'all. And compared to Mort, here I'm old. And I'm so happy to share. We can do more. I appreciate you as well, Nuru. Thank you for your continued insight. Delicious days. God is pressure. Kether is the Malkuth of negative existence. 13. Little by little, like a rising tide, realization is concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere. Oh man, some of the stuff she says, I gotta read that again. Little by little, like a rising tide, realization is concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere. Do you get that? She says, little by little, piece by piece, like a rising tide, building and building and building. What is realization, right? She says that realization is the concreting of the abstract. So we got this abstract. It is unmanifest. It is the nothing. But the process of slowly making that nothing into something, that is what realization is. She says realization is the concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere, bringing into manifestation things that come from elsewhere, right? Realization, and that's key, because what do we see in Gyan Yoga? What do we see in Gyan Yoga? Sunshine Chick brought this up last time, and this is something to be thought about repeatedly. What page are the 4 Mahavakyas on? There it is. Page 10. Look at this. The 4 Mahavakyas. Number 1, I am the higher consciousness. Number 2, you are that. Number 3, my soul is the higher consciousness. And look at number 4. Brahman is knowledge and realization. Brahman is knowledge and realization. Look what she says here. Realization is the concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere. Brahman is knowledge and realization. So not only is Brahman knowledge, but Brahman is also the process of taking the abstract and subjective and making it objective and concrete. So just like I said before when we were reading this book, Brahman is knowledge and realization. Purusha Prakriti, Shiva Shakti. Knowledge being things to be known, potentially, probably, and even things that are not known. Brahman is also realization, taking those things to be known or never to be known and objectifying them. Both of those things. You see what I mean? Nuru says, I also have land up here in Canada. We can gather sometime when the time is right. Oh, man. Can you imagine an in-person book study? Like, literally, everyone, like, digging through the text at the same time for as long as we want? With refreshments, of course. I think that would be extremely dope. Like, that would be legendary. I don't know how y'all would like that, but I think that would be incredible. Thank you, Sunshine Chick. Please be aware that, there from time to time, and I don't think they'll stop anytime soon, but there are accounts who pretend to be me on Instagram. You know I'm not going to message you about no damn reading. I've never done that. I never will. I don't even talk like that. I don't even say reading. So I'm not going to say, hello, beloved, you have been chosen for a reading from the ancestors. If it don't sound right, you know it's not me. And not even to mention, just scroll down the page of these accounts and you'll see that they're clearly not me. If you go down about 6, 7, 8 rows, it's like other people, right? And then the posts don't have no engagement, no comments, none of that. Just look at the clues. You can buy followers, so she bought more followers than I actually have. And even the Cash App, when she throws the Cash App at you, it's like Deborah33. Why would I have a Cash App called Deborah33? Everything I do is Travis Magus LVX777. Like, it's nothing. Like, everything I do is Travis Magus LVX777. Just be smart. That's all. I'm not gonna send you no Cash App that says Deborah22. Asian hottie too fast for you. That's not my Cash App. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, I'm just absorbing it all. Much appreciation. Nuru, Trav, Dion Fortune, and everyone in the chat. I've learned more here than I've ever learned. For real. And on that note, think about this now. She's telling us about stuff. She's teaching stuff. Trust and believe She understood what she's teaching. So she's talking about receiving abstract information from a plane beyond thought and manifestation. Best believe she knows how to do this herself. So I wonder what she was able to accomplish when she passed through her body. Society Eject says, Travis, when you read her books, do you feel her energy? Absolutely. I did even back in 2015 when I first got this book. Nuru says, y'all are special. This group must have been together in the desert with the essences. Too much familiarity activating here. Nuru says, we probably have been here for eons, gathering and regathering, trying to get it right. I've never had so many lights go on with any other group either. It's Trav's study intensity. I wonder if we take turns each time. Wyatt B says, bring your robes and Rudrakosh bees to the Canadian gathering, right? Prakriti. Yeah, that would be dope. Dope. Beloved, I've come to give you a reading. Ooh, Lance Benefield says, this came to me last night. Amun-Ra, Brahma. Tehuti, Vishnu. Shiva, Horus. Okay. See, that's what I'm talking about. Like, you've got all this information that you've been learning all these years. And when you finally get new information that allows you to synthesize what you've learned in the past, the unconscious mind is doing that. You said it came to me last night. You didn't say I thought of this. Big difference. The unconscious mind put that together for you. The unconscious mind located the pattern and presented the pattern to you. One thing I learned about internet marketing and dealing with numbers, doing ads and all that stuff, is when you start dealing with more and more data, you start seeing recurring patterns. You don't see those patterns when you just have a little bit of data, right? If in high school I went out and I maybe asked out 2 girls and I got rejected twice. So with that little bit of data, oh, girls are mean, they don't like me, right? I came up with a conclusion based on little bitty data. But as I got older, I gathered way more data and I began to understand patterns to where I was able to make better educated decisions based on the patterns that I saw. This is happening in the unconscious mind, but you've got to gather more data in order to do that. Until eventually, you're able to recognize patterns without the data, but you can't skip steps. Living in the Zone says, I feel at home in this chat, and I never feel that way with people I barely know. I'm an introvert. Yeah, there's definitely something bigger going on. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, she is intense. I have the 2022 print. Her picture's mesmerizing. Y'all talking about Deborah? Alligator says, Violet Mary Firth is Prakriti with this book. Yes, she is. Who in here knows who Violet Mary Firth is, besides me and Gator? By the way, fortune means glory, and Dio means to God. Dion Fortune translates as to God be the glory. So who is Violet Mary Firth? Mr. Higglesworth does. Good. Maybe this will give a chance for people to look it up. Okay, let's continue. So little by little, like a rising tide, realization is concreting the abstract, assimilating and expressing in terms of its own nature things which belong to another sphere. And we shall make a great mistake if we try to prove with Herbert Spencer that because a thing is unknown by any capacity of the mind we at present possess, that it must forever be unknowable, right? I remember the story I told before when I was working at the call center and I was out for a smoke break with this guy and we were talking about revelations, right? He was a Christian, a strong Christian. I remember talking about finding out how a lot of revelation is written in code and symbology and allegory. And I was breaking a lot of it down, at least from what I've learned. And he started to, I guess, get scared. Because all he kept saying was, now, brother, no man shall know the day or the hour when the Lord shall return. It's like, yeah, but this symbol means this and this is this. Now, brother, no man shall know. No man can know the day or the hour. That's all he could repeat over and over and over again. In his mind, because he didn't know it, nobody could know it. What she says here is, we shall make a great mistake if we try to prove with Herbert Spencer that because a thing is unknown by any capacity of the mind which we at present possess, that it must forever be unknowable. It's not true. Just because you don't understand it doesn't mean that it cannot be understood. Time is not only increasing our knowledge, but evolution is increasing our capacity. That's why it's a lot easier for a lot of you guys to understand this stuff now than it was before, because time is not only increasing our knowledge, but evolution is increasing our capacity. And remember what evolution is. Evolution is not monkeys turning into men. Evolution is spirit becoming matter and matter becoming spirit again. And initiation, which is the forcing house of evolution, bringing faculties to birth out of due season, brings the consciousness of the adept within reach of vast apprehensions, which are as yet below the horizon of the human mind. In other words, initiation, in a way, kind of like what was talked about in this book here, The Kabbalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. Once you start on this path for real, your karma begins to change. You might experience a whole season of bad luck right away, because that's you exhausting lifetimes of karma all at once since you've initiated the process of the work. This is why you'll have a lot of people who dabble and then all of a sudden, oh, this stuff is evil, and they run right back to the church, right? But it's just like when you get sick and you take medicine to purge the virus out of your body. Of course, you get sicker when you take the medicine because your body's burning it all out of your system. But that's what she says is happening with initiation. She says that initiation is the forcing house of evolution. It forces it to happen. Remember, I said evolution in this case is matter becoming spirit. So initiation forces the evolution, bringing faculties to birth out of due season. What does that mean? So maybe it would have taken you 3 lifetimes to finally come to the understanding of this information. But because of the initiation, now you're forced to be born in this life instead of 3 lives later. Or your awareness of this information is coming now as opposed to 3 lifetimes later, right? Birth out of due season. And it brings the consciousness of an adept within reach, brings your consciousness within reach of vast apprehensions, which are as yet below the horizon of the human mind. So all of this change actually brings you closer to the unconscious, to the higher self, to the soul. Check. Check. Stuff Dog says, speaking of patterns, I have this thing where I can see businesses that will go out of business. I don't know why, but I can just look at it, go inside and get a feeling. This place about to go under. Oh man. Final destination. Naturally Nature says, study mantra yoga and primal sound. An excellent book on mantra Travis recommended. Shreem is a bija seed mantra, but not Brzi. Say Shreem, Hreem, Kleem instead for prosperity Lakshmi mantra. Yes, that's a good one. That's a good one. Wyatt B says, can you come to the barbershop and make sure we're not about to go under? Lily June says, right, Buddhism works to eradicate karma quick. Yes. And that's why it's safer to do it in an ashram, because when that karma is burning out, it's not going to manifest as crazy situations. At least in the ashram, it might just manifest as you being clumsy, right? Or accidentally breaking somebody's pots, as opposed to a car accident or getting robbed or even shot. Stuff is the business whisperer. All right, society ejects your electricity just came back on. Fantastic. Justin Wallace says, I bought 3 books sitting here on this live stream. Oh no. Nobody knows that that's actually the initiation into the Magus Society. Buying the books. These ideas, though clearly apprehended by himself after another mode of consciousness, cannot be conveyed by him to anyone who does not share this mode of consciousness. Remember, she said that at the beginning of this chapter, right? These ideas, though clearly apprehended by himself after another mode of consciousness, cannot be conveyed. He can't share this with anyone who does not share this mode of consciousness. So some of this deep stuff that you pull out of the ether, you can't even share it with anybody, because they're gonna look at you like you're crazy, because they're not used to that type of consciousness, right? That's why everybody feels so lonely around here, because there's no one to talk to about these type of things that you're experiencing. That's just the way it is. Oh yeah. Stuff Dog says, I knew it was. Every time I get on here, I got Amazon in the background. Man. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, yeah, my book collection increased when I started going deeper with Trav. He can only put them forth in symbolic form. But any mind that has in any way had experience of this wider mode of functioning will be able to lay hold on these ideas on their own plane, although it may be unable to translate them into the sphere of conscious thought. So that should kind of bring attention to how a lot of you all started being interested in this stuff when you were young. What did you see or experience as a child that allowed you to have access to the understanding of this type of information, right? What was it that you might have saw or even retained as you came into this world? And why you and not all the people around you? No man knows the day or the hour. No man knows the day or the time. He actually had fear in his eyes. It was funny. Like, I didn't catch the drift. He was low-key telling me to shut up. No man, brother, no man knows the day or the hour. That's the program, I guess. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, ask him, do a woman know? That would have been funny. Brother, no man knows the day or the hour. I'm not trying to wake up right now. This is not my time. I'm going back to church. Fuck what you talking about. Respectfully, in the name of Jesus, by the power of the Holy Spirit. In this way, therefore, in the literature of esoteric science, there are scattered seed ideas such as God is pressure, and Kether is the Malkuth of negative existence. These images, whose content does not belong to our sphere at all, they're extraterrestrial, these are the male germs of thought, which fecundate the ova of concrete realization, right? So now she's talking about gender on a higher plane. Remember, male doesn't mean penis, female doesn't mean vagina and breast. Male would represent the force of direction and impulse, whereas the feminine aspect, female, would represent that which facilitates, that which expresses, right? So she says here, these images whose content does not belong to our sphere at all, right? These same images that are apprehended from the higher planes beyond thought. She says that these images, they're scattered seed ideas, right? They don't belong to our sphere. These are the male germs of thought, which fecundate, which means that they impregnate, they fertilize the ova of concrete realization. In other words, when God is pressure, Kether is the Malkuth of negative existence, when these type of phrases, these are actually, you could say, mental sperm cells that enter the mind, the womb of the unconscious. And as they begin to grow, they take birth in the conscious mind. They're born in the conscious mind. So it takes time sometimes for understanding. You continue to fertilize the unconscious mind, but eventually, see, the metaphor I used before was a garden, planting seeds. In themselves, they are incapable of maintaining more than the most fugitive existence and consciousness as a flash of realization. That's why the download seems like a flash, because without proper soil, without a womb, the spark, the seed, it bursts. But if you don't do anything with it, it doesn't become anything, right? That's why you have to take action on these downloads and these impulses, even if it's just you writing it down, right? What she says here, in themselves, they are incapable of maintaining more than the most fugitive existence and consciousness as a flash of realization. But without them, the ova of philosophical thought will be infertile, impregnated by them. However, though their substance is absorbed and lost in the very act of impregnation, growth takes place within the formless germ of thought. And ultimately, after due gestation, beyond the threshold of consciousness, the mind gives birth to an idea. So remember also, for all the people that are like, oh, the black woman is God and the womb is God, da 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 da, like, we have to stay away from trying to have favoritism with gender, because that's ego. They both are necessary for birth to take place. The womb literally lays there inert and dead until it is fertilized. The womb lays there empty and inert until it is fertilized. Shango says zim zum. Oh yeah, they don't know about that. Stuffed Dog says God is fucking all day in the cosmos. Wouldn't you? "14. If we want to get the best out of our minds, we must learn to allow for this period of latency, this impregnation of our minds by something outside our plane of existence, and its gestation beyond the threshold of consciousness. The invocations of an initiation ceremony are designed to call down this impregnating influence upon the consciousness of the candidate. Hence it is that the paths of the tree, which are the stages of illumination of the soul, are intimately associated with the symbolism of initiation ceremonies. If we want to get the best out of our minds, we must learn to allow for this period of latency, this impregnation of our minds, by something outside of our plane of existence, and its gestation beyond the threshold of consciousness. Remember what I read in that previous book, that mastery, the mark of mastery, is being able to have a very coherent relationship between the conscious mind and the unconscious mind, right? Not running from it, not fighting it, but having a close relationship between it. Life is a vast mystery with incredible possibilities. We are all on a journey together through life, and in this respect, we are all the same. All people are inherently valuable and acceptable as they are. Everybody makes the best choices that they perceive available to them. Nobody could have responded any differently than they did to any past situation. People are, however, completely free to choose how to respond at each moment. People limit the possible choices they perceive because they or some part of them is asleep. If people know that they are valuable and acceptable as they are, they will perceive more choices and make the right choices, and thus become free to evolve in any direction. People demonstrating mastery or excellence in the world have a high quality relationship between conscious and unconscious, right? And look here, in the martial arts like Aikido, for example, you go into the mat and you practice and practice. When you meet an opponent, you don't stop to talk to yourself or think about what you're doing. You don't even decide beforehand what maneuver to use. You really can't know what you're going to do until you interface with the opponent, because you are in a dance with the outside world, right? A master knows when to use the tight thinking of the cognitive conscious mind and when to use the loose thinking of the more creative unconscious mind. Hello. Serious business. Stuffed Dog says Dion Fortune be spitting titanium bars. Shango says in Palo Mayombe, the scratching initiation is explained that it calls down the forces that enlighten your soul. All right. Well, it's been about 2 hours and 22 minutes. We can go through this one. One more chapter. This is chapter 6, Etz Chaim, the tree of life. So we just did the 3 negative veils. Now we're talking about the tree of life, all right? So give me about 30 more minutes or so, and we're going to get through this. I'm glad that there's so many people here. There's more people here than there were for the last book studies. So I guess you guys really were looking forward to this. Excellent. Chapter 6, Etz Chaim, the tree of life. 1. Before we can understand the significance of any individual sephirah, we must grasp the broad outlines of the Etz Chaim, the tree of life, as a whole. 2. It is a glyph, that is to say, a composite symbol, which is intended to represent the cosmos in its entirety and the soul of man, as related thereto. And the more we study it, the more we see that it is an amazingly adequate representation. We use it as the engineer or the mathematician uses his sliding rule to scan and calculate the intricacies of existence, visible and invisible, and external nature or the hidden depth of the soul. Who here is into crypto and trading? If you are, what app do you use? She says here that the tree of life, it's a glyph, it's a composite symbol, and it's intended to represent the cosmos in entirety, nothing left out, right? And at the same time, the soul of man, right? And she says, the more that we study it, the more that we see that it's an amazingly adequate representation, right? 40 Shot Kosher Corver says, bit true. Wyatt B says, Meyer app, EGLD all day, baby, right? How about some Coinbase? How about some MetaMask? Robinhood, okay. Study just as Robinhood. But notice what these apps do, right? You can't see the market. You can't sit there and watch those coins go up and down. You need an interface, right? You need something to actually look at and watch and check so that you can have a comprehensive perspective. This is what the tree of life is, right? You can't close your eyes and visualize what the coin is going to do. You've got to look at the app. You got to track it and trace it and compare it to the past, to the future, and to the market as a whole. Likewise, we use the tree of life to scan and calculate the intricacies of existence, visible and invisible, in external nature or in the hidden depth of the soul. It's the same thing, right? Scott Russell says CoinGecko. Alicia says clever, right? They're all different, but they do the same thing. They help you chart the invisible. They help you scan and look at something that isn't actually physical at all. The same way that we use Yasad to look and perceive the other Sephirah. So this tree of life, it's a tool. You could even see it as an app. This is the app that we use to see the soul and God and nature and the universe. Amazing. Spiritual technology, for real, for real. Number 3, it is represented as will be seen from diagram number 3 as a set of 10 circles arranged in a certain pattern and connected among themselves by lines. The circles are the 10 holy Sephiroth, and the connecting lines are the paths, 22 in number. 4. Each Sephirah, which is the singular form of the word of which Sephiroth is plural. So Sephiroth means all of them. Sephirah is one of them. It's a phase of evolution, and in the language of the rabbis, they are called the 10 holy emanations. The paths between them are the phases of subjective consciousness. The paths are grades. Latin, gradus is a step, right? The paths are the steps by which the soul unfolds its realization of the cosmos. The Sephirah are objective. The paths are subjective. We talked a lot about objective and subjective. Well, now you see. The Sephirah, the circles themselves, those represent objective reality, right? Something that's expressed, that you can touch or see or hear or taste or has some type of effect on the conscious mind. The paths are subjective, meaning that it is a filter, meaning that it is something internal, an experience, an interpretation, a definition, a label. 5. Let it be recalled again that I am not expounding the traditional Qabalah of the rabbis as a historical curio, but the structure that has been raised upon it by generations of students, initiates, all of them, adepts, some of them, who have made the Tree of Life their instrument of spiritual development and magical work. This is the modern Qabalah, the alchemical Qabalah as it has sometimes been called, and it contains all manner of things besides traditional rabbinical lore, as will be seen in due course. 6. Let us now consider the general layout and significance of the tree. It will be seen that the circles which represent the Sephiroth are arranged in 3 vertical columns, and that at the head of the center, higher than any other, forming the apex of the topmost triangle of the Sephiroth, is the Sephirah Kether, to which we referred to in the previous chapter. To quote again the words of McGregor Mathers, the limitless ocean of negative light does not proceed from a center, for it is centerless, but it concentrates a center, which is the number 1 of the manifested Sephiroth, Kether, the crown, and the first Sephirah. So you can take that also to look at how we saw Purusha and Prakriti. Purusha would represent an infinite field, soul, Shiva. It's an infinite field. It's not coming from a center. It's centerless. However, it concentrates a center, just like Purusha concentrates a center called Prakriti. Right? In the same way, Purusha is an infinite ocean, but there's an island here, right? There's an island. And you know how an island has like the tree, a city, and there's like trees and like gravel, and then there's a beach. Notice how the beach kind of touches the water and the tides kind of flow over the sand and go away. You can look at Prakriti as an island. Ooh, flashbacks. Mushroom trip. Mandelbrot. Anyways, Bhuti can be seen as the beach of the island of Prakriti. Kether can be seen as the beach of the island of the tree. Because every now and then Purusha washes up and touches Bhuti, and we call that intuition. Or I could even say in other words, Bhuti, the sand, reaches out into the ocean and comes back. How do you like me right now? Poison ivy, poison ivy. Shango says the tree in the midst of the garden. Man, these metaphors, just like what she was saying, they're not just pretty images or light codes. These metaphors are seeds, just like the Bij mantras are seeds. And when they're planted in the unconscious mind, they become fertilized and they begin to grow and fecundate, as she said. And eventually they will manifest in your life objectively. Somebody said, not just Brother Panic, but dang, who else was it? Somebody said in one of these books that it's not magic if you don't have an actual objective manifestation, right? There's got to be some type of objective correspondence manifestation in order for it to be actual magic. Otherwise, you're just daydreaming. I think it was Libra Nolan, the Psychonaut dude. I think it was him. But anyways, it rings true. Any type of magic you do, spiritual or whatever, it's got to have some type of effect. Otherwise, you're at best you're fooling yourself. At worst, you're online trying to fool everybody else. Don't do that. Shango says the Sephira are also called fruits of the tree. Yes. You know, they just added trees in Fortnite you can plant. Like you take your seed and you plant it, and after so long, it starts to grow fruit. And depending on how ripe the fruit are, you can get higher level weapons and gear and stuff, right? So if it's just a seed and it's not quite ripe, you get like a real low level weapon and maybe like a little small heal. But if you let it grow to full ripeness, it becomes gold and you get like the highest quality weapons on the game. Everybody has a tree. It's pretty cool. And somebody can cut your tree down and you got to start all over. But anyways, keep in mind that when you watch TV, play video games and sports and all that stuff, you're being bombarded by symbols. These are seeds being planted into your subconscious mind. Just be aware of that. From what you've learned here today, you should have an even more respect for yourself as far as what you plant in yourself. I'm very cautious as to what I plant in my garden, right? Because I know what kind of fruit I want. I know what kind of fruit I need. So I tend to my garden and make sure that I plant copiously seeds and I water them, right? Please do that yourself. Do that yourself. If you want a certain kind of fruit, get the seeds, plant them, and tend to them regularly. Otherwise, I mean, you're somebody else's garden, and they're reaping the spoils, right? We gotta save the world. Oh, Black Lives Matter. Let's go out here and march. You have become fruit for someone else. They have planted seed in you, and you're bearing their fruit, and they're coming to eat it. Is that what you want? To be fruit for somebody else? And then you don't even know who it is. There's a stranger in the darkness somewhere, pulling you like puppet strings. I can't breathe t-shirts, man. I can't breathe t-shirts, chanting it in the streets. Is that the fruit that you worked hard to plant? Let's just be real with it. Let's continue. 7. Madame Blavatsky draws from Eastern sources the term the point within the circle to express the first becoming of manifestation, and the idea is contained in the rabbinical term Nekuda Rashuna, the primal point, a name applied to Kether. 8. But Kether does not represent a position in space. The Ein Sof Ar has been called a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. Kether does not represent a position in space. Right? The Ein Sof has been called a circle whose center is everywhere and whose circumference is nowhere. A statement which, like so many in occultism, is inconceivable, yet nevertheless presents an image to the mind and therefore serves its purpose. Kether, then, and for the matter of that, all other Sephiroth, is a state or condition of existence. Please get that. Get it out of your head that Kether, Hakma Bina, Giburah, Chesed, Tifereth, Hod, Netzach, Yasad, Malkuth, these are not places, all right? These are not places that you can fly out into space and go visit. They're not places that you can step your foot on. Look what she said. These Sephiroth are a state or a condition of existence. We must, and look, a caterpillar into a cocoon, into a butterfly. Those are three different states of existence for that life form, right? Mediation, manifestation, knowledge at 11:11. Peace and greetings. Mad Bear, peace and welcome. I can't breathe t-shirts. Chanting I can't breathe in the streets. Well, no shit. Look at the mantra. What vibration do you think you're tapping into with all that collective grief? And then go to the country buffet afterwards, eating pounds of pork chops and bacon and ribs. I love it. Gotta love this planet and the people that live on it, because without them, we wouldn't have a chance to experience the wonder of Prakriti. Going to the country buffet afterwards, the Golden Corral. Chili's baby back ribs, barbecue sauce. Chili's baby back ribs. I want my Chili's baby back ribs. OB, peace and greetings. You came just in time for the I can't breathe ribs. Do you want your sauce on the side, or do you want them slathered and covered? You want half a rack or a whole rack? Love it. Andy Smith says, place your sigils in the bottom of the pot when you're potting your plants. That's a good idea. Mr. Higglesworth says, is the country buffet still a thing? I haven't seen one in like 15 years. Man. Barbecue sauce. Do y'all remember that commercial jingle? That was actually a good one. Society Eject says, 3 plates of food, right? Shaylette says, LOL, leave them alone. That country vanilla ice cream at the buffet hits different. Yeah, I'll give him that. But you eating the country buffet ice cream after them 3 plates of red meat. 75% of the plate is sausage, bacon, ribs, and then like a little tiny side of greens, mashed potatoes. Talking about they doing it to us. Diabetes and cholesterol is a pandemic. They're killing us. No, they not doing nothing. You just got back from the I Can't Breathe march and stuffing your face with the ribs. Shango says, what's the sigil for ribs? I'm gonna have to create one. I mean, look, I'm talking a bunch of shit, but I tell you what, man, I like to fast and I like to go on my non-meat diet, but every now and then, I'm gonna get me a rack of ribs and I'm gonna eat all of the meat off of the bone. I don't care what nobody says. Trav, don't you know that the pig is what they use for the... Hey, that may be so, but I tell you what, I don't do it every day, but I will be doing it again. Living in the Zone says, man, they blowing up that bathroom afterwards. Chili, baby, back. Oh, Shango says, in a small plate of side salad. I mean, don't get me wrong. You can eat what you want to eat. I'm just putting the whole picture together. That's all. Do what you want to do. That doesn't have any real significance to your spiritual journey. Don't get upset. I don't want to hurt nobody's feelings. I'm not here to hurt butts. Don't get butthurt. I can't go to the country buffet no more because that's way too much food. I can't do it. My son was here and he's used to eating 3 times a day, so I ate so much with him. I'm still full. I done conditioned my body to eat once a day. So country buffet is out of the question. Period. Chili baby back ribs. Society Eject says a salad with bacon and ham on top, slathered in ranch. Mariah Magdalene says, if you don't mind, I'm going to use the hurt butt phrase. It tickles me, lol. Hey, I came up with it tonight on accident. I usually say butt hurt. But anyways, let's continue. Cosmic Chlorophyll says, I like some ranch dressing though. I saw a video clip of somebody recording this woman walking out of Walmart with her groceries. And before she put all her groceries in the car, y'all, she pulled that big bottle of ranch out and took it to the head. She turned that thing upside down and filled her mouth with ranch. Drank it in the parking lot. That's something I never want to see again in my life. Okay, come on, seriously though. We must always bear in mind that the planes do not, so the spheres, the Sephiroth, they're not places, they're states and conditions of existence. We must always bear in mind that the planes do not tower up one above the other into the Empyrean like the stories of a building, but are conditions of being, states of existence of different types. And though they develop successively in time, they occur simultaneously in space. Look at that. They develop successively in time, meaning one after the other after the other. They occur simultaneously in space, existing of all types, being present in a single being. Right? So this is all happening in Kether. As we realize when we remember that the being of man is made up of a physical body, emotions, mind, and spirit, all occupying the same space at the same time. Nine. If anyone has ever watched a heated liquid at saturation point crystallize out as it cools, they will have a useful symbol of Kether. Fill a tumbler with boiling water and dissolve in it as much sugar as it will take up. Then, as the mixture cools, watch the sugar crystals appearing. When you have done this in actuality and not merely read about it, damn, she's calling y'all out. Listen, do this experiment. You got to see what she's talking about here. You got to see it. This is what it's like for Kether to come out of nothing, right? I can talk about it and show you diagrams and she can read it here, but do what she's saying here. Take a tumbler filled with boiling water and dissolve in it as much sugar as it will hold. And then, as the mixture cools, watch the sugar crystals appearing. This is easy. You can do this tonight. When you have done this in actuality and not merely read about it, matter of fact, you can do this right now. Try it. What's it going to hurt? It's just sugar and water. You will have a concept under which you can think of the first manifest coming into existence out of the primordial unmanifest. You want to see some magic? Go try it. The liquid is transparent and formless, but a change occurs within it, and crystals, solid, visible, and of a definite form, begin to appear. Equally, we may conceive that a change occurs within the limitless light, and Kether crystallizes out. 10. I do not propose at the present moment to go deeply into the nature of any Sephiroth, but merely to indicate the general scheme of the tree. We shall go over the ground again and again in the course of these pages until a comprehensive concept is built up. This can only be done gradually, and if we spend a great deal of time upon an individual point before the student has a general concept, much of that time will be wasted, because the bearing of that concept on the scheme as a whole will not be understood. The rabbis themselves applied to Kether the titles concealed of the concealed and the inscrutable height, hinting that there is not a great deal that the human mind can hope to know about Kether. 11. It is worthy of note that exoteric Judaism, to whose liabilities Christianity is not altogether fortunate heir, does not contain any concept of the emanations, or overflowing of the Sephirah one from another. It declares that God made the sea and the hills and the beasts of the field, and we visualize this process, if we visualize it at all, as the work of a celestial craftsman fashioning each new phase of manifestation and putting the finished product on its place in the world. This concept kept science back for hundreds of years in Western Europe, and in the end, men of science had to break with religion and endure persecution as to heretics in order to arrive at that conception of evolution, which was explicitly taught in the mystic tradition of Israel, a tradition with which the writers of the Old Testament were unquestionably familiar, for their works are full of Kabbalistic references and implications. 12. The Qabalah does not conceive of God as fabricating creation stage by stage, but thinks of the different phases of manifestation as evolving one from the other, as if each Sephirah were a pool which, being filled, overflowed into a lower pool. To borrow again from McGregor Mathers, hidden in an acorn is an oak with its acorns, and hidden in each of these is an oak with its acorns. So each Sephirah contains the potentiality of all that come after it in the scale of down-flowing manifestation. Kether contains the rest of the Sephirah, 9 in number, and Chokmah the second contains the potentialities of all its successors, 8 in number. But in each Sephirah, only one aspect of manifestation is unfolded. The subsequent ones remain latent, and the preceding ones are received by reflection. Each Sephirah then is a pure form of existence in its essence. The influence of the preceding phases of evolution is external to it, being reflected. These aspects, as it were, having been crystallized out in the previous stages, are no longer in solution in the outflowing stream of manifestation, which ever proceedeth from the unmanifest through the channel of Kether. When, therefore, we want to find the essential nature, the basis of manifestation of a particular type of existence, we get it in the Sephirah to which it corresponds when we meditate upon that Sephirah in its primal form. For there are 4 forms or worlds under which the Kabbalists conceive of the tree, and these we will consider in due course. They are only referred to now in order that the student may have enough background to see his picture in perspective. That's important to note if you don't know already. Every Sephirah below is contained within one above. So like you said, Kether contains all 9 below it. Chokmah contains all 8 below it. Binah contains all 7 below it. But the thing is, it only expresses the main Sephirah. So even though Binah has all the lower Sephirah in it, only Binah is expressed. Now, if you wanted to meditate on it, you could find Netzach in Binah, right? So on and so forth. But it's just like color. They say that when sunlight hits things, the color that you see with your eyes is the one color that is not absorbed, that is reflected, right? Good stuff. They doing it to us. Right. Country Buffet did it to you when they cooked it on the grill. Yet you pulled the money out your wallet, paid for it, and ate 3 plates. Where were we? 13. The student will find it very helpful to refer to the chapters in The Ancient Wisdom by Annie Besant, which deal with the phases of evolution. These throw much light upon the subject with which we are dealing, though the system of classification is not the same. Let us conceive of Kether, then, as a fountain which fills its basin, and the overflow therefrom feeds another fountain, which in turn fills its basin and overflows. Basically what she's saying is, see the Sephirah stacked up. As Kether becomes full and it overflows, it now catches into Chokmah. And as Chokmah fills and overflows, it now goes into Binah, and so on and so forth. The unmanifest forever flows under pressure into Kether. And there comes a time when evolution has gone as far as it can in the extreme simplicity of the form of the existence in the first manifest. All possible combinations have been formed, and they have undergone all possible permutations. Action and reaction are stereotyped. There can be no new development save the combining of the combinations among themselves. So, in other words, up here in Kether, as the unmanifest flows into Kether, every possibility is created, and there's nowhere to go except to combine the possibilities to make new possibilities. Imagine a cell of a child going from a sperm and an egg and then splitting into two, then into four, then into eight, and it continues that process. That's what's happening between Kether and Chokmah. Action and reaction are stereotyped, meaning patterns are starting to form now. There can be no new development save the combining of the combinations among themselves. Stuffed Dog says, like a champagne fountain of glasses. Exactly. Force has formed all possible units. The next phase of development is for these units to combine into more complex structures. When this occurs, a new and more highly organized phase of existence begins. That also shows why Doth is so difficult, because Doth, you're entering now into the realm of simplicity, and the ego is way too complex to even exist up there. That's why you have to transcend thought. Thought is complex. The higher levels are extremely simple. That's what I mean by purity, right? So, in order to even exist in the upper triad, you've got to be extremely refined to purity. And as Dion Fortune will say in his book, once you get there, there's no coming back. You've completed the journey. You win the game. When this occurs, a new and more highly organized phase of existence begins. All that has already been evolved remains, but that which evolves now is more than the sum of the previously existing parts, for new capacities come into being. So what she means is, going from Kether to Chokmah, you got 1 plus 1. 1 plus 1 now equals 3, because it's 1, and it's 1, and it's something new. 15. This new phase represents a change of mode of existence. Just as Kether crystallized out of the limitless light, so the second Sephirah, Chokmah, crystallizes out of Kether in this new mode of being. This new system of actions and reactions, which have ceased to be simple and direct and become complex and tangential. We now have two modes of existence, the simplicity of Kether and the relative complexity of Chokmah. Both these are so simple that no kind of life known to us could be maintained in them, right? Chokmah and Bina, those states of existence, they're so simple that no kind of life that we know of could even exist up there. That's not to say there's no life, just the life that we're used to could not exist there. Nevertheless, they are the forerunners of organic life. We might say that Kether is the first activity of manifestation, movement. It is a condition of pure becoming. Reshith HaGilgul. Reshith HaGilgulim. The first swirlings, the commencement of whirling motions, as it is called by the Kabbalists. Premium mobile, as it is called by the alchemists. Chokmah, the second Sephirah, is called by the rabbis Mazaloth. Mazaloth means zodiac. Remember that. The sphere of the zodiac. There we go. Here we have introduced the concept of the circle with its segments, right? Think of an orange and its different slices. Not a circle with just 12 lines, but an orange with 12 slices. So that's the sphere of the zodiac. The sphere of the zodiac, not the circle, the sphere. Here we have introduced the concept of the circle with its segments. Creation has moved outwards. Out of the primordial egg, Hiranyagarbha, out of the primordial egg has developed the serpent that holdeth its tail in its mouth, as Madame Blavatsky chronicles in her invaluable storehouses of archaic symbolism, The Secret Doctrine and Isis Unveiled. 16. In a similar manner to that in which Kether overflowed into Chokmah, does Chokmah overflow into Bina, the third Sephirah. The path pursued by the emanations in these successive overflowings is represented upon the tree of life by a lightning flash, or in some diagrams by a flaming sword. It will be observed by reference to diagram 1 that the lightning flash must proceed from Kether outwards and downwards to the right to reach Chokmah, and then turn on a level course to the left and proceeds an equal distance beyond Kether upon that side, and there establishes Bina. She's talking about the path of the lightning flash. The result is a triangular figure upon the glyph, and it is called the triangle of the three supernals. That's the top three spheres. or the first Trinity, and is separated from the rest of the Sephiroth by the abyss, which normal human consciousness cannot cross. Here are the roots of existence, hidden from our eyes. Oh boy. Gotta love it, man. I love this book. It's probably going to become my favorite again once we start getting into it. And you're going to see why. If you're not impressed so far, just hold on, because this is really about to get super juicy, like them ribs at the country buffet, slathered in the best barbecue sauce. I like mine spicy. I don't know about you. But anyways, look, I don't want to overload you too much, because on Sunday we're going to have a conversation about all this. So I'm probably going to stop here for the week, unless y'all want to just dive through this book. As an alternative, I'm thinking of maybe jumping into part 2 of A Practical Guide to Symbolism. Maybe that'll be too risky for you guys, I don't know. Or maybe we can do another yoga book. Or we can do that NLP book that I mentioned. But if I do that, it's going to have to be a part of my secret club, which, of course, I mean, you'd have to become a member of the channel. But really, it's up to you guys. I've learned that I do what I like to do, but it's also a lot more fun when you guys can suggest what you want. So let me know. Let me know. Or we can just focus on this. But either way, we're not going to do a read tomorrow because it's Thursday. And we will probably resume Thursday or Friday or Saturday. Or we'll take a break. We'll see. I'll be asking around. Shango says this book is the top prime rib of books of this topic. I agree. Timon, peace and greetings. Yeah, what you figured out from those cards was quite awesome. So look, you guys got some homework. Get yourself a pot of boiling water and pour it into a cup. And once it's boiled and poured into a cup, pour a lot of sugar in there and then slowly watch the crystals form. And that's going to be an example of how Kether forms out of the unmanifest, or how Prakriti forms out of Purusha. It's easy. Do it. I'm probably going to do it tonight just for shits and giggles. But I think I'm about to go ahead and get off here. She didn't say a human consciousness couldn't go up there in the supernals. She said no normal human consciousness. That's a good point, Stuffed Dog. Woo! Oh, goodness gracious, great balls of fire. All right. This was fun, and we will continue. Again, I say stay tuned, because the shadow working course is coming rapidly. Like I said, I've been using the techniques on myself. I done came up with this new, well, I can't say I came up with a new meditation technique, but I have applied a meditation technique that I've been using. It's extremely simple, and so far it's been helping me to navigate my unconscious sleep, right? So cool, so cool. And just like what she was saying, it's very difficult to translate what you see there, but trust and believe, when you shine the light on the unconscious mind, those things are now brought to the surface eventually. It's almost like you go down to the bottom of the ocean and you stir it up, and the sand and the debris start to float up to the top. Whew. And I'm learning how to trust and utilize my subconscious mind in a way like never before. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. I appreciate all of you being here. This is the best thing to do. I love it. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful that I have this YouTube channel, and that you guys come here and you listen and you enjoy it and you learn on your own. You study, you bring things to me, you bring things to my awareness, and you keep me motivated, right? You give me stuff to do. And look, reading this book helps me too, because like I said last night, reading out loud, I'm reading it to my physical body, right? So read out loud. Don't be afraid to do that. Do your mantras and meditations out loud, because your physical body is a creature of the earth, right? You're not your body. You're here with it. You're observing it, but you're not the body itself. Okay. So I appreciate you guys being here. Lily June says you're doing the unboxing of the new books. Oh, you remember. Wow. Tell you what, I'll do it on Instagram. I'll do the unboxing on Instagram. So find me at LVX777. I'll do it tonight on Instagram. All right. And yeah, I think it's time to go. Hope you guys learned a lot because I certainly did. Durga says hello. Om Durga. Okay, I'm out. Gonna get myself something to eat. All this talk about ribs and barbecue sauce has got me hungry. Okay, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Have a great night. I'll see you Friday, Saturday, or definitely on Sunday. Peace.